Eric Adams is the mayor of New York City. You may have heard of him. You may have seen a funny video clip here and there because he's weird.
When the mayor has swagger, the city has swagger.
When describing his governing style, Mayor Eric Adams today used the word swagger about a dozen times.
This is a city of swagger.
And without mentioning his predecessor by name, he said Bill de Blasio didn't have it.
And the leadership should have that swagger. That's what has been missing in this city.
When you look at the totality of the year, if you had to describe it, and it's tough to do, in one word, what would that word be, and tell me why?
New York. This is a place where every day you wake up, you could experience everything from a plane crashing into our trade center to a person who's celebrating a new business that's open.
Probably one of the goofiest men alive. In a country like the United States, with certainly no shortage of unserious and cartoonishly evil politicians, Eric Adams still stands out as one of the weirdest, cruelest, and openly hypocritical politicians in public life right now. And thanks to today's video sponsor, my research was easier than ever. This video is sponsored by Ground News. When you're talking about protests, or really anything the media is able to spin in their favor, factuality is more important than anything. But with today's sponsor, Ground News, it's never been easier to check articles for factuality, integrity, and bias. You can see what outlets have covered what stories, as well as the biases for each individual outlet. Eric Adams has done a lot of shady stuff, like every mayor of New York City has. But the best way to stay informed and factual about our government, in my opinion, is with tools like Ground News. Ground News is a news aggregator platform with over 50,000 sources from around the world across the political spectrum, all in one place. Ground News makes it really easy to see the full picture that partisan sources may be leaving out. Every story comes with a full list of sources, insight on who owns those sources and the political bias, as well as credibility of them. They provide summaries of the differences in how left, center, and right-leaning sources cover stories, all backed by ratings from 3 independent news monitoring organizations. There's even a custom feed option that will filter stories based on your specific interests, which is really useful when you can't quite think of the name of an article or detail of a story. Ground News provides an incredible amount of useful information about where our news comes from, how the same stories are reported across the political spectrum, and the kinds of biases these outlets have. The articles you read don't just fall out of a coconut tree. They actually exist in the context in which they were written and all that came before. So, ground.news/Ethan is online for 40% off the Vantage subscription, which I use all the time. And you'll be empowered and acknowledged with the details of any news story that you need to know about. Again, that's ground.news/Ethan is online for 40% off the Vantage subscription. Thank you so much again to Ground News for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to it. Now, mayors ordinarily aren't super significant to broader national politics, right? Unless you're Mayor Pete. But New York specifically sets sort of an example for things like policing and dealing with homelessness on account of the massive population and massive police budget. Did you know the NYPD has offshore locations? Hey, what do we need those for? And it's especially frustrating with a Democrat like Eric Adams setting these kinds of examples, doing right-wing reactionary policy and brutal policing while supposedly representing the left in America, or whatever people think is the left. I hate the left. I tried to write the left and correct it, but I left the left. I don't know where I'm going with that. But Eric Adams sets a bad example and capitulates to right-wing talking points on things like immigration, crime, and drugs. Not to mention how many pigs he's stuffed into the subways. No, a couple more, just a few more in there. But all of this really makes sense when you understand that the mayor of New York City is a cop. We should never elect cops, by the way. What are we doing? Every time we do this, it goes wrong. We shouldn't elect cops. We shouldn't elect anybody who likes cops or anybody who looks like cops. It's just not working out. Eric Adams was only sworn in 2.5 years ago and has spent much of that time propagandizing things like crime and violence.
It is our city against the killers.
To justify the return of brutal police policies that the citizens of New York City have spoken out against before. Eric Adams himself, as a child, was a victim of police brutality and decided to join the NYPD to change it from within. But then, living the lifestyle of a cop sitting around and doing nothing and eating donuts in the parking lot on overtime, it eventually caught up with him and he developed diabetes. Ordinarily, this would be irrelevant, but he did famously claim that switching to veganism cured his type 2 diabetes because he didn't want to take medicine. You don't have to take it, you just turn vegan instead. But not fully vegan. He actually does eat fish sometimes. So I guess fish can also cure diabetes?
Eric Adams. His life dramatically changed when he was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. He turned it all around by embracing the power of food.
It was a very significant emotional time for me because, remember, I'm still a public figure.
I'm sorry, what was that even for? An ad for him not being diabetic anymore? Hey guys, just I wanted you to know, it wasn't my DNA. It was my food. It was my food that was giving me diabetes, and I cured it by not eating my food. He didn't have to go vegan. He just had to stop eating garbage. It said my dinner, not my food. My bad. My bad.
I learned how to use food, a whole food, plant-based diet, to reverse my conditions. And when I did so, 3 weeks later, my vision came back. 3 months later, my nerve damage went away. My diabetes went in remission. I couldn't even tell you when the ulcer went away. It's just one day I said, hey, what happened to that pain in my stomach?
You don't understand. He reversed it. He had diabetes, reversed it. Rewind time. He eats onions now. He loves onions and garlics and cauliflower. What does he actually eat? I'm embracing the power of food to reverse it. All the diabetes that I had from being a cop. Hashtag diabetes? It just feels like a flex because Eric Adams is just saying how he did it. He did it. It was his dinner. It was his food.
I went to the doctor. He stated, Eric, your diabetes is at a dangerous level. I got to put you on insulin right away.
No.
I had nerve damage in my hands and feet.
Not the needle. Anything but that. It's like it almost gives anti-vax energy, but it's from 5 years ago. And it's also about insulin. Like, obviously you don't want to be dependent on medication if you can avoid it, but there's nothing wrong with that. But I guess if it's as easy as just switching your diet, which it happened to be for Eric Adams, well, I guess then it is easy then. It was so easy for him.
You know, I love to always end the rumor right away that says cops love donuts. That is not a rumor, it's a fact. I ate all types of donuts, from jelly to cream to glaze. I always exercised, but my diet was horrendous. On the move, as an elected official, as a police officer, I did steady midnight, so it was difficult to find things that were open.
I want to express by talking about the way cops eat and how it affects them, I'm not fat shaming. This diet is inherent to their cop lifestyle, and it's symptomatic of the greater problem of needless over-policing and inflated police budgets in this country. You could go into it even deeper and be like, well, this is exemplary of the kind of food that we have available in America at a moment's notice, at late at night. What kind of food are we making available for people who work late, for the working poor? Or really, what kind of food is just accessible at any given time that's the cheapest? But obviously Eric Adams doesn't want to talk about like anything like that. He just wants to talk about how he's vegan and it was really easy for him. He just switched what he ate, the power of food.
What was amazing is that not one doctor that I visited said anything about nutrition and food.
I don't believe that. I just don't believe you can't develop type 2 diabetes and your doctor not talk to you about what you're eating. Was he paying attention? How does no one question when people say stupid ass shit like this? Not one doctor? Like, there is like a systemic problem in this country of doctors telling people they just need to lose weight instead of actually addressing problems they would have regardless. So I find it very unlikely that the opposite happened to Eric Adams, as he was a cop with type 2 diabetes.
In the past, my entire meal was built around my life. Now my life is built around my meal. I chop up my kale, my carrots, my other items that I'm going to use, and I leave them in bags in the fridge. And so when it's time for me to make a meal, I just take a handful of each and put it all together.
Did he invent this? Why is this a video? To me, it feels like he's trying to convince me. Like, I really do my kale and my carrots and all the other items that I chop up the night before. I put them in bags and I put each one individually together in a bowl And I eat it in my office. Look, with my staff, I eat it there. Everyone's working. I'm just eating my carrots and kale and other ingredients. Beans, I don't know. It feels like a commercial.
I have a public event tonight with those who want to look at vegan/plant-based lifestyle. I have 2 dinners that I have to attend to actually entertain my Chinese guests that came from out of the country. So if my energy level is not up, I'm not able to deal with the issues that people are having.
And I'm not able to go to those dinners that I have to go to. 2 dinners.
And if I could teach families how not to go through that and just experience life where their family members are not experiencing Alzheimer's, where grandparents can't identify their grandkids, and families are going through chemotherapy, and mothers are dealing with asthma. If I can do that, if I can change that, that is the end of the chapter. And I mean, I had a great life.
Does he think veganism would cure cancer? Or reverse it. Reverse. No more cancer. Like, obviously this was before he was mayor, but he has a lot more resources now to provide plenty of food to people, actually. But, you know, it is more important to give it to the police instead, so they can eat food. All the food they want. Sorry, freedom ain't not free. Yeah, obviously he wrote a book about it so he could sell this book, even though he's literally not talking about anything. What is he saying? It prevents cancer, it reverses diabetes. Like, there's a lot of correlation mixing with causation here. And also lying. Well, sometimes he ate fish too, probably at those dinners. No vegan options, gotta go with the fish. You can't expect him to control himself all the time, he's a cop.
I was taking medication. They gave me medication for my high blood pressure, medication for my cholesterol problem, several medications for my diabetes. I had an ulcer. They gave me medication for my ulcer.
And I'm supposed to believe that not one doctor asked about your diet. Not one?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since you brought up your eating habits, I just want to clarify something. How often do you eat fish, and do you eat any other animal proteins?
I eat a plant-based centered life. Some people want to call me vegan. Vegans eat Oreos and they drink Coca-Cola. I don't.
Some people want to call him vegan. Vegans eat Oreos. I still can eat fish though if I want to.
You eat fish.
I eat a plant-based centered life. And I'm not going down that. Hold on. I eat a plant-based centered life. And I'm not going down this rabbit hole of what do you eat? If you eat cake and it has eggs in it, did you analyze it? I'm not doing that.
What do you mean analyze if it has eggs in it? Wait, how does he even, what is his diet? He doesn't want to get into the analysis of food or what it's made of. Plant-based, centered. Plant-based centered diet.
I got to get New Yorkers to eat a plant-based centered life. And if that's not an answer that people accept, then it's cool with me.
You described yourself as vegan, and there's vegans who do not eat animal-based protein.
Thank you. I answered the question.
I don't know how you can be like trying to advocate for plant-based centered diet for the city of New York when there are still people sleeping in the streets. Like a lot of people, actually. Like a lot of people. He would know. He approved the NYPD being able to determine who they kick out. And where do you think they go? You want to analyze that, or is that too hard for you? Got too many ingredients. Okay, I'm not talking about the vegan stuff anymore. The first time I ever saw a video of Eric Adams, it was this very bizarre PSA he made like 15 years ago as a New York State senator. I'll just show you and you could figure it out.
What I would like to show here is to empower parents on how to search a room inside their home. It's imperative that you should know what's inside your household.
It also is imperative that you, as a viewer of this YouTube video, understand that I did not add this music into his video. He put this music in this video.
So by periodically sending a message to your home that there are no rooms off limits, you don't believe in locked doors, your house is open to inspection by your house and the members of your house. The message is you expect your children to do what's right, but you always have to inspect what you expect. And that's the key to providing some preventive safety.
He loves his little zips and slags and slogans. Inspect what you expect. What did he say about his food?
In the past, my entire meal was built around my life. Now my life is built around my meal.
Your food revolves around your life until your life revolves around your food. which is how you're supposed to be plant-based, centered, revolve around the center that is plant-based. You are centered around the center plant-based. You tried to write the plant-based, but you end up having to left the... I love that he also had no plan for the majority of the video. Like, there's stuff planted in specific places, but he doesn't know how to naturally go to it like he's actually searching.
You can look in a jewelry box. A jewelry box of this nature, maybe a simple jewelry box, but if you look through it closely, you don't know what your child may be hiding. For instance, a gun could be hidden. A small caliber weapon could be hidden.
You never know what your child could have. A small little caliber gun for babies. Literally anything could happen. A child could literally have anything. Explosives, drugs, hostages.
Look at the various colognes and perfumes and photos and pictures.
The colognes and perfumes. Look at them. Look through them. What if they hid some piss in there? They were saving it and you found it, stopped them from a crime. Get piss off the streets.
You should always, when your child brings in his popular knapsack with many different locations, look through it to see what exactly is your child carrying in addition to a book. Something simple as a crack pipe, a used crack pipe.
Just as simple as that. A crack pipe. The teachers are giving them to the kids now because of woke. The music also makes the crack pipe reveal so extra tragic.
What exactly is your child carrying in addition to a book? Something simple as a crack pipe. A used
What
crack
has
pipe.
happened?
Could he have found it on the street? That's quite possible. But this is a discussion piece where you should start speaking with him to find out what is he doing with it. And the whole use of drugs. This invokes conversations.
He's just trying to invoke conversations. What is he seriously teaching right now? If you find a crack pipe in your child's school bag, invoke a discussion. Talk to them about it. Oh, I don't know. Maybe see what he's doing with it.
Behind a picture frame, you can find bullets. What does that mean to find bullets? Does it mean your child is carrying a gun? No. Where there's smoke, there's possible fire. Where there's a bullet, there's possibly a gun.
That's not how the expression goes. It's actually the opposite of what that expression means. Where there's smoke, there's possibly fire. It could be something else. Just check in case your child is hiding bullets behind the picture frame.
Behind a picture frame, you can find bullets.
No.
What does that mean to find bullets? Does it mean your child is engaged in the conversation and find out what are they doing with the item? And this empowers the parents.
I love how he says this empowers the parents. Finding the bullets, engaging in a discussion. He's literally a cop. He talks like a cop. Everything is an operation. Ascertain the situation. Investigate behind the picture frames to find potential harmful projectiles. Engage in a discourse with your offspring related to these items. This empowers the parents.
Look at all the items inside the room and feel around and see what's the possibility. Something simple as a baby doll. Could be just a baby doll, but also it could be a place where you can secrete or hide drugs.
Why did he say secrete?
Like a pillow like this with a button is a perfect invitation to hide something. And I felt something bumpy. I would reach in, see what it is. This one could be hidden inside a pillow, a gun.
I feel like this is just a good list of places cops would probably plant things in your house. Officer, I swear that's not my pillow gun. But this pillow with a button on it is the perfect place to hide a gun. You're right, it's just too perfect.
My message to you, you have an obligation to protect your home. The First Amendment does not apply to the right of parents to go through their homes to remove contraband or any other unsafe item. There are no First Amendment rights in your home. You have a duty and obligation to protect the members of your household.
Why does he have to phrase it from like a totalitarian standpoint? It's not like engage with your child in a loving and caring and supportive way so you don't push them away or drive them away. No, he has to put it like you are the federal government and you are conducting a raid on your child's little room. Bust down the door, rip open all the stuffed animals. What's in there? Destroy the fucking pillows. AK-47.
Always have to inspect what you expect. And that's the key.
As you can obviously tell, gun violence is a very significant issue for Mayor Eric Adams. He talks a big game about how many folks die of gun violence, but surprisingly never mentions the cops that commit it. While New York did have a spike in crime after the pandemic, as many places did, by now it's more or less leveled out. Still less dangerous than pre-pandemic times, but that doesn't stop propagandists like those in the media and Eric Adams himself from constantly fear-mongering. Ultimately just with the goal to increase police budgets. by the way. More donuts, more Candy Crush tokens. But when you're talking about guns in the street, illegal guns are just half of the picture. Every cop in the street is at least one gun in the street. They use them too, especially as black and brown people are still disproportionately targeted by Eric Adams's stop, question, and frisk. Guys, it's different than stop and frisk.
The Black Lives Matter movement was born out of the movement to end stop, question, and frisk.
Throughout his campaign for mayor, Eric Adams, a former police captain, has maintained stop and frisk can be an effective tool when it is used legally.
Many people believe that stop and frisk was the problem. No, it was the abuse by police officers.
I mean, yeah, in case you didn't know, stop and frisk in most places is not something that's allowed. Cops can't just like stop you for no reason. Yeah, it's a little bit like this book I heard of called 1985. And Eric Adams's excuse is that stop and frisk was just used wrong before. How is he going to prevent it from being abused under his administration? Like, this is an outright, blatantly racist policing tactic that New York has used for a while. This is a Rudy Giuliani-style policing tactic. But again, you know, some of the cops that are, you know, stopping random Latino people and black people on the street, you know, one or two of them might be gay. And we should be thankful for that progress.
Stop, question, and frisk has not stopped. We're just not breaking the law.
Well, if it's not breaking the law, then it must be fine. He made it legal and kept it legal. So what's the problem? Eric Adams can stop and frisk my nuts. And you may notice that these clips come from anywhere from 2 years ago, a year ago, to 4 months ago. And that's because he has said the same thing pretty continuously. Stop and frisk is good when I do it. How is it different? I'm doing it now.
Let's talk a little bit about that for a moment. You know, you were a big thorn in the side of the police department when you were part of the police department because you complained about, police brutality and unfair practice, including stop and frisk. However, as a candidate, you have said that you think that stop and frisk can be a valuable tool when used correctly. How is that?
I'm saying how is that to Eric Adams is exactly how I feel when he says really anything. How is that? How is that, Eric?
We dropped from 1 million stop, question, and frisk in this city a year down to about 10,000 now. And we can even drop them even more.
Well, he's definitely not trying to get to less than 10,000 stops. The year this was recorded, in 2021, there were less than 9,000 stop and frisks in New York City. The first year of his administration, 2022, 15,000. Less than 10? Where the fuck did that come from, Eric? And 2023 had just shy of 17,000. How is that? Of course, we're not reaching the levels that Mike Bloomberg had, but that does not sanitize the fact that he has increased year over year of his administration the amount of stops. But I guess now he just realized how scary and dangerous the city is. The city changed him. But at the end of the day, you can't even say that he's against stop and frisk anyway.
Let's say you come home from your show tonight and you see a person in front of your building place a gun in his waistband. You call the police. You want that police to stop and question that person. If you take that constitutional authority away and you call that police and he says, I can't question that person standing in front of your home that placed a gun in his waistband, would you be troubled about that?
He thinks it's good. It's just been used wrong. And what is he doing to make it not used wrong? Fuck if I know.
At the height of stop and frisk, 50% of the stops, when officers had to put down why they made the stop, 50% of those stops were because of furtive movement. I don't even know what that means. So I'm sure that as a police officer, you can define what a furtive movement is, but that just means that I can say that the person was moving in a suspicious way or looked like their pants were heavy, and I stopped them. It wasn't because, as the scenario you just described, which is, I'm a witness, I saw this person, he put this thing in his waistband, and I need some help from the police.
Charles Blow really caught him red-handed with that because Eric Adams' defense of stop and frisk is, well, what if you saw a guy outside of your house with a gun?
These were police officers acting of their own volition saying, this guy looks suspicious to me. And I'm just trying to figure out, how do we get that, which is a very subjective judgment, the officer making on the ground. How do we get that out of it if you support the practice? How do you get the bias out of the practice?
I just love how even in Eric Adams's fictional scenario, that's not how it would work. It's a completely different scenario where you're calling the police. Also, like, this is America. There's more guns than people. If you called the police because you saw someone put a gun in their pants, I don't know. I don't really feel like they would show up unless you were in the suburbs or something. What are they gonna do, like oblivion guards? And stop him in his tracks? Halt, citizen. Stop! You have been reported as a possible gun wielder. Open your pants immediately. Like, cops would show up 45 minutes later, and then it's like, where is he? Where'd he go? I was too busy playing Angry Birds Transformers in the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot. I like going in the Chick-fil-A. They say they serve me with pleasure.
How do you get the bias out of the practice and still support
Here's the answer. So now here's what you do. You tell every police officer you will have your camera on when you make any interaction with the public to justify your action. That's number one. Number two, you allow the complaints that are coming from the public, not those self-initiated stops that we were seeing where the abuse was coming from. So now you're going to use the video cameras. Then you're going to analyze those officers who are making stops that do not fit the criteria of a legal stop, and you're going to remove them from the police department. That is how you do it. We were not doing that before, and because I understand the abuse of it, I'm the best person to make sure that it never is abused again.
Okay, so the cops will have the camera on. They will analyze the officer. They'll just watch the footage, I guess, of every stop. That doesn't really seem efficient. There's literally got to be a better way to get guns off the street. The NYPD is literally an army. We just can't figure it out. We just have to stop them on the street because we think they're scary.
You have, positioned yourself as a person who understands the police department and criminal justice enough that you can protect the city without being abusive to its citizens. How does that work, in real terms for you? What would you do in New York City to bring down this violent crime wave while at the same time not, stepping on the communities that already feel like the city is stepping on them?
God, Charles Blow is trying so hard to get him to say anything of substance. What are you actually gonna do? Like, he's already lying about his position. He might as well lie about what he would do anyway. I don't understand. I don't feel like it's any more or less damning. You're still lying.
We must change the ecosystem of public safety. Right now, we have never in America properly defined what's that ecosystem. We have used the police as the only part of that ecosystem. I say no to that. Policing is just one component of it. We need to have mental health professionals. That's another component. We need to have crisis management team. We need to have conflict resolution. We need to have youth groups in organization, clergy groups. We have what's called the God Squad here.
I don't understand. I don't understand what he's saying. You got to change the ecosystem. You got to make policing nice. Everyone's nice. I guess he really did change the ecosystem by increasing stops, just like doubling the amount of stops. He's also had some really bizarro takes on unmasking. I don't know. I feel like this clip just exemplifies how much of a right-winger he really is, and also how much of an authoritarian. He just loves bossing people around. It's so annoying. You gotta eat plant-based centered. You can't wear a mask though. I care about your health.
The mayor says people working at high-end stores, which are frequently targeted by thieves, might want to see somebody's face before letting them inside.
Yeah, you can't talk about high-end retail shopping in the news without condescension from a white woman. Thank you so much. You might want to see their faces, maybe. Shut the fuck up.
As far as Mayor Adams is concerned, asking someone to take their mask off for a few seconds before entering a store, any store, is crime fighting 101. Saying you're on candid camera helps catch the bad guy. And he says that we've reached a point in the pandemic where store owners have the right to wonder why somebody still wears a mask.
We've gotten so used to the mask that we don't realize that there's a large volume of people that are wearing it, not because of COVID, because they're criminals.
This is straight paranoia. I don't understand. How? How do you even think like this? What are we, in the Old West? You know, them bandits out there, they'll wrestle you up.
You're really saying that asking somebody to remove the mask for a minute is like a deterrent, because you're basically saying to the person, we're going to catch your face now, so maybe you shouldn't do that evil thing that you wanted to do.
That evil thing. People around in the world are just sitting around trying to do evil. How do you live like this?
Mayor Adams, former transit captain Eric Adams, defending an agreement made with a bodega group to allow them to post signs asking patrons to take their masks off before entering. It came to light after a longtime clerk at the Diona Deli and Grocery on 3rd Avenue and 81st Street, was shot and killed last week by a man in a white Tyvek suit with a dark face mask.
Like, why are we acting like this is a new thing? I literally made the Old West joke because this is something that's happened forever. But all of a sudden, we're like, oh, the pandemic's over. Why are you wearing a mask? People wear masks in Asian countries all the time during flu season and just in general. And not to mention how big of an Asian population New York City has. It's just bonkers. It's actually nuts.
This employee, himself the victim of a robbery, is not sure unmasking is the answer.
All you're going to do is just going to get into arguments.
Doesn't that exacerbate their aggressiveness?
We're not asking the bodega to tell the person when they walk in, hey, sir, you have to take off your mask. There's a sign at the door that the Bodega Association helped us create.
And there's this video released by the NYPD of a Staten Island burglary last Friday. Police say the men forcibly entered without permission, damaged the store, and made off with $300 worth of cigarettes. Nevertheless, the mayor says high-end boutiques might want to make people unmask before being buzzed in.
I have no idea how they thought this footage helped their case. Only one guy is really wearing a mask here. You can see the faces of multiple other people. Not that it's even that clear, which, again, boils this down to ridiculous. It's like, congratulations, you have these two images. Which one tells you more information? It's so needlessly aggressive to a lot of people who are really just minding their business. Like, connecting this to COVID in any way when the only two examples were people in full ski masks. People wear ski masks in New York too in the wintertime because it's cold. Another important issue that Eric Adams has recently completely flipped on is immigration. Now, you might be wondering, New York is very far from Mexico, and you'd be right.
As of today, we've sent 45 buses to Washington, D.C., and there's a whole lot more where that's coming from.
But New York City has also been on the receiving end of those buses.
Just a little good old-fashioned human trafficking for you. You love to see it when you're America. And initially, Eric Adams welcomed the immigrants into New York, saying it was in the spirit of America.
This issue will destroy New York City. Destroy New York City.
No, sorry, that's just him saying it would destroy the city. And liberals will constantly feign concern over resources being spread too thin. What if we can't provide for the white? I mean, Americans. Abundance of resources in America is not an issue. Certainly not in New York. It's about the distribution and accessibility of those resources. We throw away a lot of viable food in this country every single day. Landlords have gotten to the point where they don't want to house people that won't earn them enough profit. No landlord is trying to give housing to people who desperately need it. And Manhattan is especially not where landlords are looking to provide handouts. In fact, in many cases, they keep rent-controlled apartments empty on purpose to keep the market inflated and justify higher rent for other property. The not enough resources bullshit is a perfect cop line because it's a lie and kind of implies that he doesn't know how to count. But it's also more about the willingness to provide those resources or make them available.
We have to feed, clothe, house, educate the children, wash their laundry sheets, give them everything they need, health care. Month after month, I stood up and I said, this is going to come to a neighborhood near you.
And that's what it's about. It's perfectly fine when you can keep the hypothetical migrants out of your line of sight, but no, it's coming to you. This is going to be a burden to you. And if anything holds you back, then it deserves to die.
Now we get Ecuador. Now we get Russian speaking coming through Mexico. Now we get Western Africa. Now we getting people from all over the globe have made their minds up that they're going to come through the southern part of the border and come into New York City.
And I hate when people try to go here. They're coming from Africa now. Russia speaking. It's fear-mongering. It's so disgusting. How are you different from a Republican at all? The way Eric Adams is handling the immigrant busing isn't much of a surprise considering it kind of overlaps well with his policy on homelessness, which is give more money to the police and ignore the homeless. The cops can decide, they can figure it out. Give them money and they'll figure it out. They'll have their camera on. I will be watching from the chair.
I'm not going to have an inhumane city that allows people to live in an inhumane, dangerous environment, no restrooms, no showers.
He's not talking about the homeless people. He's talking about the people living around them. He's not providing them a place to go. All he's done is let the police destroy homeless encampments, let social worker volunteers go refer them to a homeless shelter, to which very few of them would ever actually go. Many shelters are not safe places for homeless people, for a variety of reasons. People get things stolen. People get hurt in homeless shelters. If they're not already hurt by Eric Adams' blitz of homeless encampments.
They're not looking at the migrants as human beings. They're looking at them as numbers. They're looking at them as a way to get more money from the federal government. And they're also using them for their own tactic, which is to deter more people from coming here to New York City.
And that's exactly the point. New York City gave up on purpose. Eric Adams gave up on purpose because he doesn't want any more, because it's starting to affect you. Democrats, when they actually have to commit to helping people after saying they would, the fucking city's gonna blow up. And listen, being anti-homeless is like breathing air for any American politician. It comes natural. But obviously New York City has a much more significant problem than most other places in the States. And Eric Adams loves his weird, flashy public moments.
A new initiative is targeting homeless encampments in New York City. Mayor Adams has announced a 2-week blitz of the camps, an effort that's well underway.
I'm not going to have an inhumane city that allows people to live in an inhumane, dangerous environment, no restrooms, no showers, no ways to take care of themselves.
This is what happens when you don't have a centralized government and you have a country full of literal morons constantly running for smaller offices. And now all of a sudden Greg Abbott and Eric Adams are dealing with the immigration crisis? Like, Joe Biden is not good enough. These guys don't even know what the fuck they're doing. And Joe Biden has literally just let them do this. Just play around with these people's lives. Mayor Adams tackling the homeless crisis in New York City. He's tackling it. You're always tackling homelessness in New York, which, you know, means letting a bunch of cops stand around watching sanitation workers throw away homeless people's shit. Yeah, now come to our shelter. We're treating you so nice already. Problem tackled.
This is another city in America. This is another city in America. This is what I saw when I was driving around the city January 1st, 2022. This is an example of another city in America. This is what you threw up your hands. Fires burning on the street, children out here. There are no toilets. You don't see this in New York. And there are those who say, I'm harsh because I don't allow this to exist.
He doesn't allow it. He lets cops destroy all that shit. What do you think, the homeless people despawn after that? Do you think they find good paying salary jobs while they're living in the homeless shelters? Do you think that's how it works? Some people think I'm a little too cruel because I don't like people having places to live. Just sleep in the shelter till you get a job at McDonald's and then you can buy a house. American dream.
You want this in front of your house? Do you want this in front of your house? You want your children to see this? This is what you want your children to see?
With all of Eric Adams' systematic failures and blatant lies to the public, it was very satisfying to see on The Breakfast Club recently him being directly confronted by Olayemi Olurin, who's a New York City resident and lawyer, and she literally vaporized him.
I think you're right that there is a difference between perception and fact and how people feel about safety and the way people feel about the subways. And I think it's your own rhetoric about the subways that has a lot to do with why people feel scared, despite the fact that millions of people ride the subway every day without incident. But you've continued to fearmonger about crime in the subways. You've added 2,000 police officers, despite the fact that you've acknowledged that the subways are not that dangerous. And I think you're right. And poor New Yorkers should not be the ones who bear the brunt of this, but they will if they already have the subway being turned into a place that they have to fear, that there's a National Guard, that there's a hyper visibility of police, that they're trying to stop people with certain records from even using them, and now you have this congestion price. So how do you reconcile that?
Well, let's go before. First of all, I would love to give me the quotes on my rhetoric because I'm lost on that. Can you give me the quotes?
Oh, that you fearmonger about the subways?
Yeah, give me
you've consistently done that since the day one of your administration. One of the first things you did was add 1,000 officers to the subway because you claimed that the subways are unrideable. You and Hochul did this and said how dangerous it is, and you recently did that when you deployed the National Guard.
Sister, but that wasn't my question, Queen. My question was, what was my fear mongering?
She hit him with a nuke.
You've said repeatedly that the subway subways are dangerous, that New York is dangerous. You complain about crime relentlessly. So what I'm saying to you is, if you are saying that New York is the safest city, it's one of the safest big cities in this country, which is true, and you're recognizing that the subway stations are in fact not half as dangerous as they're presented to be, I'm saying, how do you reconcile how your rhetoric has played into people's fear?
And not even just rhetoric, I would say the actions, because she's right. If you tell us,
which is different,
which is the same thing though. If you put 1,000 police officers in the subway, 2,000 police officers in the subway, that don't make us feel safe. We think something's wrong if you're doing that.
Let me peel back again, because you got to always peel back this stuff. I didn't put the National Guards in the subway. The governor did.
You stood with Governor Kathy Hochul and you co-signed that decision. You did. And I'm not saying this as someone who's following social media. I'm saying that as an attorney in the city and an activist who follows everything that you do.
Yeah, I'm glad you do. Because then you realize how I turned the city around. If you follow everything I do, you realize
I would say no, but we could get to that next.
Loosen up your time, man, Adams. It's gonna be a long day.
She embarrassed him so bad he could not look at her.
You're saying that you've turned it around, NYPD's abuses, but just last year we paid out $150 million in settling police misconduct from NYPD, and that was double the number. That's double the number in police misconduct since you became mayor.
I noticed something. I noticed how much passion and commitment you have. I know what I hear when I go to these community meetings. I know what I hear when I go speak to these mothers who lost their children to violence. I know what I hear. You are not even talking about that at all.
You know, first of all,
I
was a public defender.
New Yorkers don't feel safe.
But that's what you said. That's what you said.
And my original question was about how you relate to that.
You said that New Yorkers don't feel safer.
Yeah.
So
there was a poll that came out last week.
Yeah.
Right. And in that poll that came out by the CBC, it stated that the priorities of Mayor Adams is moving the city in the right direction. My priority, now remember, 2 years, 3 months, brother. 2 years, 3 months. I inherited a pandemic. I inherited 180,000 migrants and asylum seekers that can't work, that we have to house them every day. I inherited.
You called for a lot of them too, though.
No, we didn't, brother.
You said it was a sanctuary city. You told them.
Okay, let's see. That's why it's important. That's why it's important to have this conversation, because sanctuary city and the migrants and asylum seekers are two different issues. Sanctuary city, if you're undocumented, we can't turn you over to ICE or authority. Migrants and asylum seekers were paroled into here. They're here legally. They were paroled into. But what the federal government did and Governor Abbott did, they said, we're going to send them up to Chicago, New York, Boston. And the federal government is saying, Eric, you can't allow them to work. You got to give them housing. You can't stop the buses from coming in. You cannot turn them over to ICE. All of that is illegal. If I do that, we're breaking law. So when people look at the migrants that are here, we didn't call people to come here. They were sent here by Governor Abbott. And the failure to secure our borders is allowing this to continue. And we're not getting any money from. We got about $100 million out of a $4 billion price tag. Look at Chicago right now. Look what's happening in Chicago right now. My brother, Mayor Johnson over there, what's happening with him. Look what's happening in Boston. Look what's happening in Houston, Los Angeles. And then do a comparative analysis of what's happening on our streets here. Wow, we dealt with that crisis, turned around our economy, outpacing the state in reading and math of our young people. I've been on Rikers Island more than any mayor in the history of the city.
This is the NYPD Chief of Patrol account. This movement lawyer epitomizes everything that true New Yorkers are against. Do you think for a moment that community boards and block associations agree with what this misinformed person stands for? Anyway, I will get back in a couple of days after the funeral tomorrow for police officer Jonathan Diller, the very person you dismissed today. Well, he's dead. Rest assured though, if you need help this weekend, we will lay down our lives to protect you. Talk soon. Very normal. That's stuff that the good guys do. And after she blocked him, just what I thought. Meet me in Massapequa tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. to say goodbye to a 30-year-old husband, father, son, and brother. Let's talk. No, I'm just trying to talk. Let's talk. Let's meet up. Let's talk. I'm definitely not mad. I'm definitely not typing essays about how not mad I am. Eric Adams has been particularly disgusting in his response to pro-Palestinian protesters in the city, like the ones at Columbia University, and his loyalty in general for the apartheid state of Israel.
It gives us all pain to see innocent lives being lost right now. We need to do everything that's possible to end anything that's going to take the lives of innocent people. But Hamas must be destroyed. They're a terrorist organization. Their barbaric act on October 7th cannot be ignored. Every hostage should be released.
Really gross.
Which should have been a peaceful protest. It has basically been co-opted by professional outside agitators. We were extremely cautious about releasing our intel.
Yeah, they're really cautious about releasing the intel. That's why they didn't release any that showed that there were any outside agitators, because there were none. We're just not releasing it because we don't want anyone to see it. The bad guys would know about it. Like, what is the difference between this guy and, like, Matt Gaetz at this point?
That's our flag, folks. Don't take over our buildings and put another flag up. That may be fine to other people, but it's not to me. My uncle died defending this country. And these men and women put their lives on the line. And it's despicable that schools will allow another country flag to fly in our country. So blame me for being proud to be an American.
My uncle died! I'm making every flag illegal. Well, then he wouldn't even have seen any of that. I mean, I don't understand what the problem is. If anything, he died for your right to be able to throw it on the ground. Fucking pee on it.
We're not surrendering our way of life to anyone. There are people that we have been watching in organizations that are not part of the campus. We've been very clear. There are individuals and organizations that are not students. We're seeing a shift in tactics that are being used, destruction of property, destructions of cameras, and so many other things. We saw paraphernalia and pamphlets about disruptions. There's a series of things that the Intelligence Division has brought to make a determination that there's an influence going on right now.
You think if they actually had a name for this influence, they would have said it by now, you know? I don't feel like that's something that they would keep very secret. I feel like they would immediately say, look, it's Hamas. But it's interesting, you can't say that. I feel like if it was the case, you'd say that, or Iran, or Russia. I don't know. You figure it out.
The Democrats want the ceasefire. The Democrats want the ceasefire. The Democrats want the ceasefire.
How dare you fly another flag in this country? Sorry, I just love freedom so much, and I enjoy using it. But you have the freedom to press like and subscribe on this video. I guess my final point is Eric Adams is a inline party Democrat, and when it comes down to policy and the effect of his policy, almost indistinguishable from a moderate right-winger, or what America sees as a moderate right-winger, aka a violent fascist. But hey, at least he's a really embarrassing, funny guy. Anyway, thank you so much for watching my video. If you liked it, please press like or send it to someone for Father's Day, and make sure to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. This one's a little different. I was chilling. I thought it might be fun to make a little more laxed video. I don't know. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.